Welcome everyone. I'm Darshan from LeapQuest, and today I'm going to show you something applicants almost never see. Not tips, not tactics, and definitely not surface level advice. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the real engine that drives top MBA admits, the actual logic, psychology, sequencing, and strategic architecture that determines who gets admitted with scholarships and who gets silently filtered out. This 10 months MBA planner you're about to see is not a document, it's an advantage machine. A system engineered from years of decoding what top schools reward, what they reject, and most importantly, why. We have built this framework not to prepare applications, but to prepare leaders who are impossible for the admission committees to ignore. And let me say something very few consultants say. MBA admissions is not fair, it's not equal, it's not meritocratic. It's strategic. It rewards those who understands the mechanics and punishes those who doesn't. What we have built at LeapQuest is a system that understands those mechanics at a frightening level of depth. We can look at a profile and instantly see what the school will question, what they will celebrate, and what they will pay scholarship money for. That level of clarity is something that you're going to experience today. Here's the hard truth. Most applicants begin their MBA journey at the wrong place, just with essays. Top admits begin with profile architecture. Because essays don't win admits, your credibility does. Schools don't admit what you write, they admit who you are before you write anything. They look for leadership signals, industry logic, maturity, growth trajectory, and alignment with their values. This is why our 10 months roadmap begins long before even the application portals open, because that's where the real differentiation begins. Most applicants operate in two dimensions, just GMAT preparation and essays. Schools operate in four, past, present, narrative, and future probability. To win, you must present a story that fits all four dimensions flawlessly. A good GMAT score without strategy is just noise, but a well engineered profile becomes a signal, and signals are what committees trust. Top admits are not accidental, they're sequenced and they're architect. The global MBA game has changed. Let's talk about the world you're applying into. Acceptance rates for Indian applicants at the top schools now sit between 8 to 12%, sometimes even less. Thousands of 720 to 750 candidates enter the pool every year. And here's the most misunderstood fact in the entire MBA journey. The GMAT is a filter and not a differentiator. A 730 gets you application read, it doesn't get you admitted. Schools reject brilliant applicants every year. Not because they're not talented, but because their profile lacks coherence, depth, and school alignment. And here's what has changed. Admissions has become data driven. Schools benchmark your profile against admit patterns from thousands of previous cycles. They can instantly detect generic career goals, weak leadership arcs, mismatched aspirations, lack of industry logic, manufactured narratives, and shallow community impact. This is no longer about writing well. It's about aligning with statistical patterns admission committee trust. Understanding this shift is what separates an average application from an irresistible one. Let's look into the LeapQuest blueprint. This blueprint is not a list of tasks, it's a machine. Every component, profile engineering, leadership strategy, school alignment, narrative construction, interview logic, is interconnected. When you follow the sequence precisely, you create compounding credibility. You just don't look like an applicant and you look like a future leader. That's the whole point. Traditional consultants focus on editing and we focus on identity shaping. Editing definitely improves sentences, but strategy improves chances. Editing corrects grammar, strategy builds convention. Editing responds to school prompts, but strategy anticipates school's expectations. These are two completely different worlds of outcomes, and our blueprint belongs to the latter. The power of this system lies in its predictability. When your narrative is engineered correctly, when your signals are aligned with your goals, when your leadership proof is undeniable, the application stops being a gamble and becomes a controlled process. Admission committees don't have to guess who you are. Your blueprint will definitely show them. Now let's look into your 10-month strategy at a glance. This is not a 10 months timeline, it's a 10 months evolution. Each phase is designed to strengthen you professionally, strategically, and psychologically. This sequence mirrors how top business schools themselves evaluate candidates with increasing scrutiny at every stage. The early months build your credibility. The mid phase converts credibility into a compelling admission ready narrative. The later stages prepare you for the interview, which is no longer a test of knowledge but a test of consistency, clarity, and composure. And the final stage maximize scholarship outcomes and negotiation power. And when this timeline is followed correctly, the entire MBA process feels smooth and controlled, and there is no rushing, no improvisation, no last minute panic. You submit early, you interview confidently, and you negotiate from strength, and you make school decisions from a place of clarity and definitely not desperation. Pre-GMAT profile engineering. This is the most underrated part of your MBA journey. Most applicants think that the GMAT is the first big milestone. It definitely isn't. Pre-GMAT profile engineering is where your admit probability is built quietly, slowly, and definitely strategically. This phase turns you from being an employee into a leader in progress, from someone doing tasks into someone driving outcomes, from someone with achievements into someone with leadership signals. Schools don't admit doers, they admit initiators, influencers, and definitely the ones who make decisions or the decision makers. When we do this correctly, your applications become deeply persuasive even before essays are written. Because committees don't trust words, they trust evidence, and this phase creates that particular evidence. Your competition is not against an average candidate, it's with the top 10 or 15% of your demographic. People who almost look perfect on paper, and you must stand out within that pool and not outside of it. These candidates comes with years of blended packed experiences. IITs, NITs, government consulting projects, CFA, McKinsey level work, startup founders who have raised capital. Their accomplishments are real, measurable, and definitely impressive. And you're not competing against a median, you're competing against the concentrated excellence of the Indian talent pool. And to beat this cohort, you don't need more achievements. You need better positioning. You need sharper storytelling, deeper interpretation of your journey, and cleaner alignment between your past and your future. And that's what makes the committee choose you over someone with an equally strong or a stronger profile. What exactly is profile building and what does it mean? Real profile building is not about collecting random certificates or doing activities for the sake of it. It's about crafting signals that admission committee recognize instantly as leadership potential. Each action you take during this phase must strengthen either your leadership arc, your industry credibility, or your community impact. And if it doesn't support these pillars, it doesn't belong. Schools reward intentionality and not just activity. And this is where your identity as a candidate begins to solidify. A powerful profile doesn't emerge from luck. It emerges from thoughtful, strategic development. When done right, you just don't look good on papers, but you'll definitely look inevitable. Month 1 is the diagnostic phase, the most intellectually demanding part of the journey. This is where we deconstruct your entire professional identity and rebuild it into a coherent, strategically relevant narrative. We identify your strongest leadership moments, your most impressive impact stories, your biggest differentiators, and your biggest risk areas. We map your trajectory against real admit patterns from top schools to understand precisely where you stand and what needs to be done. The clarity you gain in month 1 becomes your compass. You no longer operate with uncertainty or insecurity. Every action you take for the next 9 months is backed by strategy and not just guesswork. This is how serious applicants win. Your month 2 would be about visibility and brand activation. Month 2 transforms your internal clarity into external perception. Admission officers subconsciously evaluate whether your environment sees you as a leader, and this month ensures that answer becomes a confident yes. We will refine your LinkedIn, elevate your workplace visibility, and ensure your interactions, responsibilities, and leadership moments are noticed by the people who will eventually write your recommendations. Your professional brand becomes stronger, clearer, and more credible. When everything is done correctly, this month creates a ripple effect. Teammates respect you more, managers rely on you more, and your professional identity begins shifting in real time. Schools can definitely sense this evolution instantly. Month 3 is all about external validation and proof. So it's the proof phase. This is where we eliminate doubt. We convert claims into verifiable accomplishments that schools can definitely trust confidently. This includes technical certifications aligned with your post MBA plans, thought leadership that demonstrate intellectual maturity, NGO work that demonstrates values driven leadership, and resume impact bullets that demonstrate organizational value. At the end of month 3, your story is no longer aspirational, it is evidence backed. You look like a candidate whose future is predictable, reliable, and aligned with school's expectations. Committees love applicants who reduce uncertainty. Month 4 is all about narrative engineering. Month 4 is where everything starts to click. This is the narrative engineering phase, the foundation of compelling, high conversion applications. We refine your career goals, build your post MBA logic, align your school selection, and craft the underlying story that your essays will later articulate. This is where your achievements narrative coherence, the highest currency in the MBA admissions. A strong narrative doesn't just increase your admit chances, it improves your interview confidence, your scholarship odds, and even your future career positioning. A powerful story is an asset that continues paying dividends long even after your MBA. By month 5, something very important has happened. You're no longer anxious, you're prepared. This is where we log the full strategy before execution. Schools' portfolios are defined, essay calendars are finalized, test plans are mapped, and recommender strategies are also aligned. Every contingency is anticipated. This month is a strategic midpoint, the point where your career journey, personal story, and your school alignment merge into a single narrative structure. It's a transition from exploration to execution. Most applicants only start thinking strategically at this phase. You will be already be operating from a solid foundation. This gives you a advantage over the global applicant pool no matter what. And by the end of month 5, every decision has become intentional. There is no randomness, no improvisation, no scrambling. The mistakes that sinks thousands of applicants every year. You enter the application cycle with the clarity of someone who has already played the next 5 months in advance. This is what makes your application looks composed and definitely powerful. This section reveals how elite strategy functions in the real world. Two applicants may look identical on paper, but subtle differences in their goals completely transforms their strategy. The same background can produce different narratives if guided with precision. The reason differentiation matters so deeply is because most top schools operate in a comparative evolution system. They don't ask, is this candidate good? They ask, how does this candidate outperform the other 200 people or the 2000 people with the similar credentials? And that's why differentiation isn't all about louder achievements, it's about sharper, more relevant positioning. The high level strategy requires deep interpretation of your experiences, the stories you choose, the skills you highlight, the leadership moments you emphasize. All of this must be calibrated to your exact post MBA direction. This is the difference between looking like a strong applicant and looking like the right applicant. Same colleges, but different career goals. Two candidates, same GMAT, same college, same company, but different goals. Consulting versus finance. This single difference changes everything because schools evaluate whether your past predicts your future. And this is why admissions is not a judging contest, it's a prediction exercise. Schools admit candidates who make their recruiters' lives easier. A consulting aspirant needs structured problem solving proof, cross functional leadership, and ambiguity handling. A finance aspirant needs modeling sophistication, analytical rigor, and investment logic. These pathways are not interchangeable. And career goals act like a lens that reframes your entire profile. The same project can sound strategic and or analytical depending on how it's narrated. The same story can show client influence or financial acumen depending on that angle. This is where strategic storytelling becomes a decision competitive weapon. Now let's look into something very interesting. Consulting versus finance DNA alignment. Consulting candidates require cross functional leaderships, structured thinking, NGO consulting, and strategy oriented thought leadership. Finance aspirants require quant heavy impact, valuation, depth, financial frameworks, and investment commentary. Completely different signals. In consulting, schools look for evidence for an agile mind, someone who can disassemble a business problem with structured components. They want to see influence without authority, multi team collaboration, and clarity under pressure. That requires a portfolio of stories that demonstrate cognitive sharpness and situational leaderships. In finance, however, schools want candidates who speak the language of numbers fluently, not as a task, but as a default operating system. Investment thesis, modeling projects, market insights, and financial diligence demonstrate that you don't just understand finance, you think in finance. Without this level of credibility, a finance goal sounds aspirational rather than inevitable. Let's look into the science behind DNA alignment and why it works. Admission committees don't admit candidates based on hope, they admit based on probability. They ask 4 questions: role readiness, signal consistency, skill stories alignment, and recruiter belief. This is where our process becomes more scientific than creative. Every component of your applications must vote for the same future. If your skills point in one direction, your goals in another, and your experiences in yet another, your application collapses. Schools reject candidates the moment they sense any form of misalignment. When committees advocate for you internally, they need a clean, coherent storyline to support their case. A surgically aligned narrative makes it effortless for them to back your profile. A scattered one forces them to guess, and committees never guess in your favor. DNA alignment removes uncertainty and replaces it with convention. Experience based strategy. Experience is the most misunderstood factor in MBA admissions. Schools don't compare all candidates equally, they compare you to your experience cohort. A 3-year applicant is judged on his potential, a 5-year applicant is judged on progression, a 9-year applicant is judged on strategic maturity. If you don't meet the expectations of your cohort, you lose competitiveness instantly, even if your achievements are really strong. This is why mismatched strategy damages outcome. When junior candidates show insufficient leadership, they look underdeveloped. When senior candidates show excessive certification activity, they look insecure. Each level requires an entirely different calibration of narrative depth, leadership framing, and decision making logic. Same schools, different experience levels. Three candidates, 2 to 4 years, 4 to 6, and 6 to 10 years of work experience, targeting the same schools. Expectations shift with experience, and strategy must shift with it. A junior applicant's advantage is agility, the ability to learn fast and take initiatives. A mid level applicant's advantage is depth, the ability to lead, own decisions, and create measurable outcomes. A senior applicant's advantage is scale, the ability to shape teams, functions, or even businesses. When you understand what the committees expect from your level, you no longer need to overcompensate. You simply need to present the right aspects of your journey in the right light. This is where strategy eliminates insecurity. Let's look at 2 to 4 years work experience cohort. Junior candidates face skepticism. They need leadership beyond job titles, strong certifications, meaningful NGO impact, and upward trajectory. The biggest challenge junior candidates face is their professional environments often don't give them authority. So, leadership must be demonstrated through influence and not hierarchy. This is why we engineer opportunities to lead cross functional efforts, volunteer teams, or community initiatives with measurable outcomes. Certifications here are not cosmetic, they're credible accelerators. They signal seriousness, readiness, and technical grounding. In the absence of long experience, schools must see hunger, discipline, and early maturity. Heavy build is about showing tomorrow's leaders today. For 4 to 6 years work experience, it's depth build strategy. This is the most competitive cohort. Schools expect visible progression, people leadership, decision ownership, and specializations. This is the stage where vague responsibilities no longer work. You need quantification, revenue impacted, cost reduced, processes transformed, teams led. Your profile must display tangible control over outcomes. Committees look for inflectional points where you move from executor to owner. Depth also means specializations. You must demonstrate that you understand your industry at a granular level, not as an employee, but as a future leader. When your recommenders reinforce your growth and your essays reflect this depth, you become the powerful mid career applicant. Let's look into the 6 to 10 years work experience cohort. These are senior candidates, and they must answer why MBA now and demonstrate strategic decision making and scale. At senior levels, admission committees worry about classroom imbalance, whether you'll overshadow peers or struggle to integrate. Precision is about demonstrating emotional intelligence, collaborative spirit, and humility, and definitely not dominance. Your narrative must balance maturity with teachability. This is also the stage where overbuilding becomes dangerous. Random certifications or cosmetic volunteering can signal insecurity. Instead, we focus on high leverage stories, decisions that shaped organizationals, influenced leadership teams, or impacted markets. Your impact must look inevitable and definitely not inflated. Why we never use templates? Templates are strategically dangerous. Schools admit individuals and not patterns. A template flattens your uniqueness. It forces your journey into someone else's narrative. It eliminates what you are and what makes your profile memorable. Committees see template essays every cycle, and they filter them out instantly because they lack authenticity and depth. Our work is judgment based, not formula based. Each strategy is informed by data from multiple cycles, alumni insights, and real recruiter expectations. This allows us to shape stories that feel personal and yet powerful, structured and but yet unique. Templates can't win in a world where precision is a competitive edge. School DNA alignment. Each school has its own cultural DNA, and your story must match it. DNA alignment, it's not about making up stories, it's about selecting the right facets of your identity for the right audience. Booth rewards analytical independence, Kellogg rewards collaborative leadership, INSEAD rewards agility, LBS rewards global depth. These differences define your narrative emphasis. And when you speak the internal language of a school, its values, its cultures, its approach, the committees feel resonance. Your story sounds like one of theirs. This subconscious fit is often the difference between waitlist and an admission. Let's look into few examples. Booth versus Kellogg. At Booth, we emphasize analytical rigor. At Kellogg, we emphasize people leadership and collaboration. Booth wants a mind that dissects complexity. They look for applicants who challenge assumptions, seek intellectual depth, and think autonomously. Your examples must highlight structured frameworks, data driven decisions, and thought originality. Kellogg wants a heart that elevates others. They want team builders, community shapers, and leaders who bring people together. Your stories must emphasize empathy, mentorship, conflict resolution, and cross cultural collaboration. This contrast in values demands a contrast in storytelling. Let's look into INSEAD versus London Business School. INSEAD values speed and adaptability. LBS values cultural depth and leadership maturity. INSEAD's 10 months format demands high emotional resilience and rapid execution. They want people who thrive in ambiguity, switch context effortlessly, and lead under pressure. Your narrative must showcase agility, global transitions, and decision making speed. LBS, positioned in London, sits at crossroads of global businesses. They prize slow burn leadership, cultural fluency built over time, and not just exposure. Your stories must show relationship building, international collaboration, and deep multicultural engagement rather than quick rotations. So once we are done with the 5 months of school specific profile enhancement activities, let's say you wish to apply to 5 programs, right? On an average, imagine we spend approximately 30 to 35 days per college, right? So 5 months is more than sufficient for us to build your profile for 5 different colleges. Then we move into the next phase, that is the application execution reality. So this profile enhancement activities has to be completed by May. So that, and in between, while you're preparing for your entrance exams, be it GMAT or GRE, you can take it multiple times. You have time until May to retake the exams and execute, but you need to start working on your profile enhancement activities and spend approximately 3 to 4 hours a week with this. If you have been able to do that, the first 5 months or the pre-GMAT phase would be completed. Now let's look into the application execution reality. Most applicants underestimate the workload. Elite applications require 80 to 100 days of sustained execution. This is not about writing essays, it's about refining identity. Execution is mentally intense because every essay forces deep introspection. Most candidates burn out by week 8 unless they have a strategy, a calendar, and a support system that preserves equality and quality. The workload is high because quality demands reiterations. Essays evolve through 4 to 8 drafts. Recommendations require coaching. Resumes need multiple rewrites. Nothing can be rushed. Rushed applications are easily identifiable and easily rejected. Why do applications take so long? For a 5 school portfolio, you produce 5 resumes, 30 to 40 essays collectively, LOR strategies, video essays, short answers, scholarship essays. Each document is a different instrument in its own orchestra, and each school requires a different melody. A Booth resume is not a Kellogg resume. An INSEAD essay is not an LBS essay. Everything matters because school notice subtle inconsistencies. And the real time cost comes under synthesis. You must ensure every piece of your applications across schools align with your identity. When your narrative architecture is strong, every essay becomes easier. When it's weak, every essay becomes painful. This is why early foundation work is non-negotiable. And why do early September submission wins? Round 1 gives you more seats, more scholarships, and a fallback option in round 2. Most Indian applicants submit closer to the deadline, which means their profile is evaluated in a high density pool. By submitting early, It reduces the comparative pressures and helps committees evaluate your applications with a clearer mind. Scholarships are heavily allocated in earlier rounds. School use funding to pull up talent early. When you apply in round one, you're not just applying for admissions, you're applying for money, and that requires early readiness. We have covered 10 months of strategy. Now let's integrate that logic. What we have outlined is more than a plan. It's a psychological and strategic transformation. You're not just learning how to apply, you're learning how schools think. The mindset shift gives you lifelong advantage and not just admission advantage. The planner creates that one thing admission committees reward most, the narrative coherence. When your identity, action, outcomes, and goal align perfectly, your application stops looking like a pitch and it starts looking like destiny. What this planner actually does, it converts potential to proof, effort to narrative, and profile to school fit. This system is built to eliminate the biggest failure points: unclearer goals, weak leadership evidence, shallow introspection, and rushed execution. Most applicants fail not because they are unqualified, because they are not structured. This planner definitely imposes structure. It also elevates your professional maturity. The introspection exercises deepens your self awareness. The strategy reviews refine your decision making logic. And by the time you submit, you're not just application ready, but you're also leadership ready. And that's extremely important during this phase. Who this is built for? This is for ambitious candidates who want structured, intelligent, and high ROI preparation. And if you are the type of professional who values clarity over chaos, planning over panic, and strategy over shortcuts, this system will amplify your strengths. It rewards discipline, curiosity, and self awareness. And this is not meant for people looking for the last minute miracles. It is built for those who understand that world class outcomes demand world class preparation. If you're here, you're already thinking differently, and that mindset is something that is your first competitive advantage. And what's our final takeaway? You don't win MBA admits in 10 weeks, you win them in 10 months. Elite MBA admissions is a strategic campaign, one that requires patience, sequencing, and sophisticated judgment. When you approach it scientifically, outcomes become predictable, and when you approach it casually, outcomes becomes random. And your next decade begins with one decision. Do you prepare early like the top 1 percentile, or do you wait like the 99%? The fall 2027 cycle has already begun, and your preparation should too. Meanwhile, as you're aware, the fall 2027 intake deadlines would be sometime in the month of September and October. Early action rounds are a bit earlier. Now, prior to that, we're also assisting students who are interested with the January 2027 intake. We're in very good institutions like INSEAD, HEC Paris, IMD Switzerland, Columbia also have the January intake. And we deal only with the top 50 colleges FT rankings. And HEC applications have opened, INSEAD applications have opened. Now, for these specific colleges, we will have a different profile building activity, different pre-GMAT activity, and different planner, because the deadlines are coming up in the next 80 to 90 days for these colleges, right? So it'll definitely vary. And yes, we definitely look into your profile, goals, cultural fit, and what would you want out of this MBA, and then balance your school list. School selection isn't about just ranking, it's about alignment. A school that fits your leadership DNA amplifies your growth exponentially. A school mismatch can dilute your potential. That's why our school selection process is definitely analytical and definitely not emotional. We look definitely beyond the brand. We emphasize employment patterns, industry transitions, location dynamics, recruiter depth, alumni responsiveness, and even the visa pathways. Your school choice must be strategic and not superficial. And we have several packages like 1, 3, 5, 8, and even 10 schools package. Again, depending on the number of colleges or the countries that you're targeting, you should be choosing the package. Usually, the ones looking at Canada, Asia, and something like Indian colleges, you have barely 2 to 3 good colleges in the top 50 FT ranking. So they go up to 3 schools. And anyone looking at US, Europe, or top 5 Asian colleges need to look into a 5 schools package. Somebody's looking at a combination of 2 countries like US and Europe, Europe and Asia, Asia and US, can look into a combination of 5 to 8 or 5 to 10 schools package. We cover profile building, strategies, essays, and interview preparation end to end. And end to end doesn't mean doing everything, it means doing everything correctly in the right sequence with quality control at every stage. So, our 4 member team ensures that nothing slips out, and no misaligned story, and no weak essays, and no inconsistent answers. The integration between the profile building and the essay execution is where the actual magic happens, because your essays become powerful only when your profile has already been strengthened. This vertical integration is what produces consistency's high admit rates. And your four-member team includes a head consultant, mentor, editor, and a special point of contact. Each team member handles a different layer of your identity. One builds strategy, one refines narrative, one polishes communications, and one ensures consistency. This specialization eliminates blind spots and maintains that elite level quality. And at top consulting firms, teams deliver excellence and not individuals. We mirror the same structure. This setup is intentionally designed to outperform the single consultant model used by most agencies. And as mentioned earlier, we have packages from 1 to 10 colleges. And this investment is not in documentation, it's in outcomes. It compounds over 5 years of your post MBA life through better admits, stronger scholarships, and high paying roles. When you evaluate ROI, don't compare cost, compare transformation. A strong admit can accelerate your career by 5 to 10 years, and that is the leverage you're investing in. So we have the one school at the cost of 50 grand, three schools at 1.4 lakh, five schools at 2 lakhs, and eight schools at 3 lakhs, and 10 schools at 3.5 lakh package. It's an end to end. So what it includes is the dedicated four-member team who will be helping you with the college shortlisting, profile enhancement activities for all the 5 or 8 or 10 programs, and school-specific documentation and submission within the deadline dates, followed by mock interviews or the interview preparation. So we give mock interviews for all the colleges that you have signed up. That is also included in the package, followed by scholarship assistance, direct, indirect scholarships, need based, merit based, whatever the colleges are offering. And then comes in the post admission process, where any help you need in terms of social media vetting or any assistance in terms of external funding options, that will also be taken care. And the journey begins with clarity, understanding who you are today and who you want to become. So you can reach out to us. We can have a detailed discussion. So you can visit us on our website on theleapquest.com, or send us an email or WhatsApp us, or you can also call us on 93532564447, right? And we can have an interaction, and we can have a detailed profile evaluation done, and you can talk about how should your next 10 months should look like if you're looking at the fall 2027 intake, and if you're looking at the Jan 2027 intake Jan. So again, what are the prospects, deadlines, and application timelines, and what should you do for the next 2 to 3 months? And in case if you're still exploring the round 3 options of the 2026 intake, that can also be discussed. And as your partner, our goal is to not just help you get admitted, but to help you outgrow the limitations of your current professional narrative. And this is intellectual coaching as much as it is application support. And we definitely measure success not only by admissions that you get, but how confidently you walk into your next decade. That is with clarity, purpose, and a strategic identity. Let's take the leap together. As discussed, you can visit us on our website at theleapquest.com, or you can simply drop in an email to info@theleapquest.com, or call us on 93532 and 56447 to explore what your academic timeline or the applications timeline should look like. Hope the session was very informative, guys. And definitely, if at all you have any more questions or doubts, you can always reach out to us. And if you have any doubts in terms of college selection, school specific narratives, school specific profile building activities, anything that deals with letter of recommendations, informal letter of recommendations, or scholarship assistance or interview preparations, anything at all, if you have any questions, you can interact with our admission consultants, and more than anything, we'll be more than happy to assist you and take you to the right colleges and the right places that you're looking out for. Thank you so much, guys. Darshan from LeapQuest signing off, and yeah, reach out to us. Take care. Have an exceptional weekend.